States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To approve the meeting agenda, can I get a motion
Motion?
to approve the meeting agenda? Any second?
Second.
Motion by McCarthy, second by Lloyd. Any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. If you need me to be louder, I can project.
That's a good reminder to anybody else when you're going to talk, you press your button so they can hear you. Yep. At this point, please put in the chat room if you have a blue card. There are no blue cards here. Chat is located at the bottom of your screen. Okay, there's only 12 participants. Most of them are on the cabinet. No blue cards, so we can move forward.
We'll dispense with the community open forum. Move on to item D. Can I get a motion to approve item D, personnel?
I'll make a motion for the D in its entirety.
Okay. Motion by McCarthy, second by Loyer. Any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Moving on to item E, consent agenda.
I'll make the motion to accept the consent agenda in its entirety.
Second.
Motion by McCarthy, second by Loyer. Any discussion? The only discussion, I guess, we usually thank for the donation. Brewerton Elementary PTO donated some money to Brewerton Elementary, so we thank them for that. All those in favor? Unanimous. Moving on to item F, special presentations. I don't believe there are any today. So we'll get right into item G, reports. Unfinished business. Do you have anything for here? Board President, Vice President reports. The only thing that I think everyone received an email from Andy earlier this week or maybe last week asking that we have a little bit of a discussion about whether we want to continue meeting in person as opposed to meeting remotely. I think it was primarily prompted by the updated guidance from the Department of Health with respect to the mandatory quarantines. To the extent you're exposed to COVID, regardless of mask policies and social distancing, everyone would still have to quarantine, I think, until they got a negative test, huh?
Well, yeah, so actually they were saying 14 days. And so because of that, that's why cabinet isn't here, and then I'll let you keep going. If you're wondering why cabinet isn't here, the recommendation was, given what happened at Baldwinsville where 2 students were positive and that resulted in 81 students and staff members, and from what I'm hearing, well over 200 parents and whatnot that were called by Onondaga County Health Department. And then I checked with Oswego County, and they're being very broad stroked when it comes to quarantines, even though when you're 6 feet apart, and, when you're within that, you have your masks on and whatnot. From what I was told, if you're in the same room, there's a really good chance they'll just quarantine everybody. So I just couldn't have all my cabinet quarantined for 14 days. Not that I don't care about our audience, but that's why you're 6 feet apart.
Okay, so, Andy prompted a discussion to see if, anyone had any strong feelings one way or another, that we should kind of discuss them here and now and kind of give him an update. It's not something we need to vote on, it's just if we're going to change that policy, or not policy, but if we're going to change that procedure and we're going to start meeting remotely again, obviously, we need to make some changes with Pearl and Tom. So, anybody have any feelings on the matter?
I think everybody knows my feelings. I certainly will support Tom's decision, but I like meeting in person. I prefer meeting in person. I certainly understand the cabinet not being here, and I certainly support that as well. So I will do with the majority of the board, but I guess, again, I think it's publicly known how I feel about all this. I think it's over the top. I think we've got to get back to some sense of normalcy here at some point. So my preference would be this group in person, but again, I will certainly respect the opinions of the entire board.
And to add to that, it doesn't have to be all or nothing, so the rules have changed because of COVID and districts doing distance remotely. So if anybody wanted to go on remotely, you can do that, or you can come in. You don't have to, when I'm legally, it doesn't have to be one or the other. And if you guys come, it's you're making that decision, and then I feel better if you're worthy situation.
That's good clarification, though. So 4 could come and 4 could Zoom? Is
Yes.
that correct?
Yep, I checked on that. They actually have voting rights because it's COVID, and it allows for the separation.
Perfect.
Just let me know if I'm going to be here alone, though. I don't want to be here alone.
I'll be here with you.
I'll be here, Tim.
I'll be here too.
Second.
I like in person. I was closer to folks in Bear Creek on Saturday for dinner than I was here, so.
Well, and I'm for that too, but I really do think that we're all pretty intelligent enough to know if we're sick, that we can, or there's a issue, like somebody that you worked with that has been sick, like I know Chance, for example, is a nurse. If she comes in contact with it, I know she's gonna stay home. I'm gonna respect that.
So I just want to be clear, though, it really wasn't about
No.
the worry of catching it. It's just
No,
that
I know.
any one of us can get a phone call from the health
Saying
department
that,
that
yeah.
says, and they're not going to tell you why,
Yeah,
They're
they
not
just say
gonna tell
you've
you
been
who.
exposed.
that you have to be quarantined for 14 days.
Yeah.
That's, if you guys are okay with coming in, that you can handle that in your jobs and whatnot. I'm good. I'll be here. You're here. I'll be here. Awesome.
Anybody else? Okay. So, I'll let Andy know that for the most part, everyone prefers to stay in person. I think that was his feeling as well. He just had a small, minor concern about exposure with respect to the quarantine, not necessarily with respect to safety, so. All right, I'll open it up to the floor for any other board members that have anything to report on. No, I'll jump at once. Okay.
Yes. Next meeting is the retiree recognition meeting, and Pearl did a great job for all the retirees. If they don't feel comfortable to come in person, nobody feels like they're obligated if they're feeling uncomfortable. But we had people say that they're going. Well, we have 4 that feel comfortable coming in. So
Out of how many do we have to recognize, just for my own edification?
how many do you recognize?
There was 23 total.
23 total.
And will there be cake? Perfect.
Okay. Nobody has anything, then I'll open it up to Tom for the superintendent's report.
Okay. My superintendent report is a series of updates. So sports, and I want to be very clear with that. So I was one of the superintendents to vote to have sports. I received calls from parents on both sides of it. Some parents said, you said you wouldn't have any additional restrictions. Don't change that because you're worried, because at the end of the day, if parents don't want their kids to play, that's their choice. Kind of like what we just said with board members. If they so choose to come here, they're choosing to do that. I did have parents that called me, and they wanted me to cancel it so they wouldn't have to be the parent, the person that cancels it, because they didn't want their kids to play. I only bring that up because I want people to know that it does go both ways. There are parents that are worried. They have certain elderly people that live in their households with compromised immune systems and whatnot. I just I'm not changing my mind. We are moving forward. We have students out there that are practicing. There was some confusion that I had made the rules that, soccer players could take masks off, and I was being called a hypocrite for not having kids to high school because of the 10-foot rule. So I just want to just simply say that the New York State High School Sports Association, in conjunction with the governor, because he had to bless everything, approved their plan, which basically says that the sports that started, football, volleyball, and cheerleading, were pushed to March. Again, that was not my decision. That was taken right away from anybody. They just decided that. They, meaning the New York State Sports Association, in conjunction with the governor. But for the other sports, soccer, you may see players playing without masks on. Some maybe will choose to wear masks. but we can't force them to wear a mask, as it clearly is written in the document that I just spoke of that was approved by the governor, that says that if players feel that it detracts from their play, they can not wear a mask. Question, do we test for COVID? No, districts don't have the licensure to test for COVID, that's county-based, but we do take temperatures. We are doing a lot of things in Central Square that I'm hearing really positive things, especially from elementary teachers, that we are doing everything that we can by testing the kids before they get on the school buses, and then they test them again, they check their temperature before they get on the 5 pick-up and drop-off locations, and then they get their temperature checked again when they all arrive. And that's kind of the safety belt, because some kids drive themselves, and we just want to err on the side that it takes 2 seconds really for these temperatures, boom, done. So we're doing everything we can, keep their fellow students and everything safe. I just say this because I don't want parents to then go to the game and then wonder why are their kids on both teams not wearing masks, and then so choose to pull their kids during the middle of the game. So I was very open and clear with that. Those rules are not mine. I will publicly say that sometimes I feel like I'm the waiter in a restaurant where the food is terrible, but I'm not cooking that food. But I have to hear the complaints from really good community members that are frustrated. And I get it. That's why I gave my work cell phone number out. It starts off where they're usually yelling, and then it gets to the point maybe about 37 minutes in where they say, I realize it's not you. I realize these are the governor's restrictions, and we have to make the best of that. I've had a lot of parents call me up and say, now I've done my homework, and I realized that in other districts in Onondaga County, there were a far greater number of parents that wanted to keep their kids home, which then opened up the room and the staff to be able to do it. So I think it's pretty cool that some parents that originally were yelling at me over the summer when I took the 1,500 calls are starting to make that connection. And I even got some calls from parents saying, after what happened at Beeville, bottom line is they're not afraid of COVID, the spread rate is super low, but what their point is that if the health departments have this ability to just give these massive quarantines and shut not only maybe a school or a district, but to tell those parents that they got to quarantine for 14 days as well, that's going to be a massive hit to our economy, and I just don't want, maybe this is me being a little political, but I just don't want to go backwards when I'm a superintendent of a district that $46 million, actually more than that, of our $81 million total budget predominantly comes from revenue. And if New York State can't get that revenue going, the governor has one more opportunity, and that's December 31st, to be able to come out and take more state aid back from schools. So I don't want people thinking we're out of the woods because they're hearing that the governor is not going to withhold the 20%. What I'm still hearing is absolutely there will end up being a 20% cut. May not be at the end of September, which is great, but make no mistake that December 31st, if the revenues are what they are, we could potentially have to make up $7 or $8 million in this district. So those are things that we absolutely are looking at moving forward. I just want to say, so my sports update, they're out there right now. Technology update. A little bit of confusion. The platform is Canvas. I'm starting to hear a lot of really positives. If you're watching this and you're thinking, what are you talking about? There were glitches with Canvas. That's Canvas conferencing tool. And again, I want to give Arena Gershman and her tech team a lot of credit because the platform is Canvas. But within Canvas, there are tools that need to be used, the conferencing tool being a big one. So we were telling the teachers, please use Canvas conferencing tool because the deal that Arena worked out with the president of the company was going to be based on usage. So they wanted to see how many breakout sessions, because originally, when we signed on with Canvas platform, the Canvas conferencing tool, they said, oh yeah, maybe we didn't tell you this, but that's $200 an individual session. So any parents watching this knows how many sessions take place during a day. With distance learning, that was not doable. So Arena got it worked down way lower than that, but the deal was we'll come back after a month to look at it. But there were a lot of teachers that just did not feel, and in fairness to the teachers, Again, we're not talking about the platform, we're talking about the conferencing tool, and they felt more comfortable with Google Meets. And again, the teacher's doing their job, they want to, it's a reflection on them that they feel, I understand that, and they wanted the conferencing to work smoothly. So we said, okay, the 11th hour, we said, if you feel more comfortable using Google Meets or Zoom for the conferencing tool, not the overall platform, everybody's still using Canvas platform, that will allow that. Unfortunately, we're in a little predicament now where we feel that the company is going to say, we needed to see what that's going to be. Big Blue Button is the company that basically runs Canvas conferencing, and we're just expecting to be just really, really, really expensive. So we met this morning, myself, Arena, Connie Galvan, one of the CSTA leadership members, Nicole Heath, and we looked at Google. We're looking at Google Meets, and we're looking at Canvas conferencing tool, and we're still being able to utilize Zoom. The only reason why I say all this is I'm sure their staff members are going to watch this. The teachers were told Friday, Arena was great, she got out ahead of it, didn't want teachers to be stressed out thinking on Monday you need to use that Canvas conferencing tool. So she did a wonderful job, got it out to everybody before she left here. It's probably about 6:45 at night to get that out. So I only mention that because I know some parents love the Canvas conferencing tool, other people love Google Meets. At the end of the day, we can't pay for both because that would be ridiculously expensive. A lot of money to just say to teachers, choose which one you want. But what we can guarantee is it's going to be the best cost and it's going to be everything that the teachers are trying to accomplish with that conferencing tool. Because any way you slice this, I don't really see the governor doing anything else this year that's going to not require distance learning. So I just bring that up. Great job to their, we're going to move forward. We got a ton of feedback from parents, both good and bad, about Google conferencing tool and Google Meets. We're looking at everything, and we're going to go from there. I already mentioned the health department. We're getting calls. It's interesting, and I just want to share this. There's a little bit of a difference between Onondaga Health Department and Oswego Health Department. So Onondaga Health Department is letting the district know when there is a case at home, but it's not a student. It could be a parent, it could be a grandparent that lives there, it could be a sister that's not in the school, which is great. They're letting us know. Oswego is saying, health department is saying, no, the guidance that they've got from, they all get it from the same place, state education department, is that's not to be discussed. So we're just kind of navigating because we have a building, as you know, that resides in Onondaga County. So there's great people at the health department in Onondaga County, great people in Oswego County. We're just making sure whenever I get a call, I open up the right folder, whether it's a Saturday or 8 o'clock at night, and we go from there. We are following all the protocols, and we're doing everything that they say to do. One minor little hiccup, unfortunately, was we had gotten a call from the Oswego Health Department, and they said that it needs to be spelled out a little bit better on our plan and on our website, that it's if a student comes down to the nurse's office, let's say with a headache, stomach ache, or any of those symptoms. We talked about fever is obvious, can't be in school with fever. But then anything else that you could have precondition or what they call chronic condition paperwork, the nurse could assess that and not have to send the kid home. If there isn't any paperwork and the student goes to the nurse's office with the symptom, they literally have to be sent home and they have to come back with a COVID negative test. I'll just read it to you because I got this right from the health department. The individual has to provide us with documentation of a COVID negative test. The individual has to be resolution of symptoms, that means they're symptom free, and they have to be cleared by the healthcare provider. If the parent says, I'm not buying into any of this, I'm not going to have my kid tested, then here are these rules that they have to do. It has been at least 10 days since the individual first had symptoms, and it has been at least 3 days since the individual has had a fever without using fever-reducing medicine, and it has been at least 3 days since the individual's symptoms improved, including cough and shortness of breath. So I spoke to one mother today. There was a situation, and she said, okay, I heard you mention before there's a place you can get in 15 minutes. It is. And you are covered in insurance if you have a symptom. So if the child is sent home, that is the Pulaski urgent care. You have to make an appointment. They've been really good at getting people in on that day. And then it is 15 minutes. It literally is 15-minute turnaround. I've heard from people. And then that also constitutes as the doctor sign up because they are backed as a medical institution by a doctor. The only time if someone does those drive-up ones, they still have to go to their family doctor because that's not being cleared by a doctor. That's just a drive-up. But when you hear the rapid test up at like Pulaski urgent care, any urgent care is the backing of a doctor, so they're covered and they can get right back in. I just wanted to mention that again. These are not Tom Calabufo's rules, restrictions. They are the health department's, and we absolutely must follow those. There really isn't a choice. In-person learning, I'm so impressed what I'm seeing with our high needs special ed teachers. Now, here's the deal.
Hey, Tom, before you move on, I have a quick question. Maybe you've already clarified it. So if a kid individual gets tested and the test takes 3 weeks, what happens? Well, he just had one done this 3 weeks. Just not that long ago, right? Correct?
4 weeks ago.
So maybe it's gotten better in the last 4 weeks. What happens
Everyone
then?
that I've seen, it's been 5 to 7 days, but you can probably speak more about that, given your background. Do you want to say anything about that? Or?
I mean, we all know that I've had them, and they, through my job, it's like a 3 to 5 day turnaround. You can get it wrapped within 15. But again, some of them are done by doctors, some of them are done like it's a personal service. So I don't know how long.
So I'm not questioning the length, but I'm questioning the unknown length. If a student is out for 5, 6, 7, 10, 21 days,
It
how
would
are we
never,
accommodating that?
by this other scenario. So once it gets to the 10 days, they're good under this.
So at a bare minimum of 10 days,
Yeah.
without a negative test within that 10 days.
Yeah, they have to follow those 3 bullets. And I sent this home to all the parents. So if something like that were to go on that long, they're now covered by this other thing that says.
The other option.
Yeah,
But they're still out of school for 10 days.
unfortunately, yes.
Is it
That's my point.
considered absence
That's
or
my
are they
sole
virtual
point.
at that point?
So they would be only getting, let's say it's a 10-day period, they would only actually be, if they were the hybrid, twice. Because they come in Monday, Tuesday, they're not in there. Maureen worked this all out.
Well, it could be 4.
Before.
It could be 4 days.
But still, I mean, if they're not, that's tough. 'cause if
So
they're-
here's the problem. Parents are saying, why not just make them virtual? Because we have an MOA with the teachers union that says we wouldn't exceed 30 kids on that caseload. So when the teacher zooms on or whatever they're doing, they've got all of those kids. So that doesn't mean that each day in the afternoon, so let's say you're a kid that wasn't in school that day, it's not because you got COVID or anything, because you weren't an AA kid, all right? So you're a BB kid, you would be going on at whatever arrangement that is, whether it's 2 o'clock to 3:50 or whatever that is, that student could obviously still do that at home. But I hear your point, and that's still putting these kids out. Unfortunately, this is all that we can go by here.
Just, again,
Duly noted point.
throwing that out there because that is what what the takeaway was, is that we're affecting the student's ability to be a student.
Totally,
Not we, the government.
absolutely.
Tom, I guess the only other, in terms of that, we've been collecting data on all of the different parameters for the last few years here. Obviously, we will know 2020, 2021 school year, the attendance might be off, but I also know we get dinged if we have attendance issues by the state. Is that going to be taken into consideration?
Yeah, if anybody is out because they're quarantined or whatnot, that is absolutely, it's marked a certain way.
It is.
Yes. Yep, that's what I would. that's
So
what
I don't
was
want to
told.
beat the horse, but I will. Backing up the bus for a second. So if Sally Jones is out with COVID, potential COVID, COVID exposure, whatever the hell it is, that child cannot be virtual because of our MOA with the teachers? There's no flexibility to that? Is that what I'm hearing?
So if a child is out because they have COVID, right, and they're out,
Or Yep.
And they're out for the 14 days.
Yep.
They are still going to be connected to the classroom that they're in. The teacher, because the teacher jumps on. So if, as I was saying, if the kid's a BB and it's an AA day, that kid wouldn't have been in the building, but the kid would have been zoomed in with the classroom at like 2 o'clock. The only problem is going to be if we see that this becomes an issue, and we have, right now, it's not. We don't have that anywhere near the numbers of kids that are being quarantined. But if that is the case, what we're looking at, and what Erin does an amazing job is, if the tipping of the scale is more kids doing this, we're not going to need as many teachers for in-person. So we'll take that teacher and we'll make a whole nother distance learning teacher out of that. Right now, we're not at that point. With that being said, and if a kid is home for a prolonged period of time, we owe that kid the opportunity to receive, virtual. So if a kid actually gets a COVID diagnosis, then yes, we will.
So, Tom, just to clarify, because I know from my own kids being in the elementary district, my kids are AA, so if they were out on quarantine, they wouldn't be allowed, they'd still attend Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday the same as they would any other day because those are their virtual days. But for Monday, Tuesday, what would prevent, my son's teacher's Miss Pusha, what would prevent him from attending school in the same way he would Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, on Monday and Tuesday with Mrs. Pusha, knowing that those BB students are attending school on Monday and Tuesday in that manner? So why would, I feel like what you're saying is that those students for that period of time could be switched to a 100% virtual teacher, because I know there's teachers that are dedicated to that. So if this is just a temporary 14, 20-day quarantine or whatever, why couldn't that student who is now forced to stay home on the in-school days participate in the same way that the other,
They totally could.
and not be marked absent? I mean, is that something that,
Yeah, so I wouldn't get hung up on the absent because they wouldn't get marked absent anyway if they're in for that reason. But to your point, you just honestly said it, but you articulated better than I did. They would be able to stay with that teacher and jump on the same way that the AA kids would have. So they would still see that same teacher. They would still have that connection to the teacher as opposed to switching that teacher to a virtual teacher, and then when they're done after their 14 to 14 days, now you're bringing that kid back to
but
the
it,
teacher.
it also doesn't affect the MOA because the kids are staying in the same classroom.
Correct. The only way it would affect the MOA is if the kid was put in just a virtual room where they already have it at 30.
Right.
You just said it much better than I did.
But 6 through 12, it's a moot point because they're all virtual anyway.
Yes, sir.
So I have a COVID. Sally Jones again has COVID.
They're
She
doing
just
the
jumps
same
on as she normally would. Nobody knows the difference.
That's right.
Unless, of course, COVID can come through the Zoom meeting.
It's not so.
I'm sure it can.
And then I just wanted to say, especially because the bulk of our in-person is the elementary, it is amazing. Because I wondered, what is it going to be like? And I want to be honest, I'm not going into the rooms, or I'd be a hypocrite. I'm trying to keep the exposure, so I'm not walking in. So I would see from the hallways, and I would just, when the first day or two, I would just say, hey kids, awesome, great to see you here. But the teachers were phenomenal. When the kids were 6 feet apart, the masks were off. When a teacher was walking around, they had the mask on. Then the teacher backed away, the kids could take the mask off. And I just would say to a couple kids, I'm like, how's it going? They're like, oh my God, we've already got it. We've got the routine down. That's a testament to the teacher that really brought the nervous level right down. And you could just see it. Well, you can't because we're not going to let you in to see it. But if you did, you would see that the kids look really comfortable. Now, are there going to be situations where some parents will say otherwise? Sure. I'm just really not hearing those. I'm not seeing those when I'm in the classrooms. And teachers have done a wonderful job to really I don't want to say new normal. I hate when people say that. But they're really taking the restrictions and they're making the best of a bad situation. The bus drivers, are amazing. The teaching assistants and getting on and the monitors and shooting the temperatures. Everything is really, knock on wood, gone really smoothly. From the people that take the temperatures here, their positions, things have been shifted, and I have not got a single group that has complained. And again, that's just a testament to all of them, their union presidents. Everybody's just working really hard. That's it. That's all I got.
Can I clarify or just make 2 comments?
Yeah.
I don't think we can underestimate on the sports. Every single parent in this community has the choice not to allow their child to play the sport. So going to a game and complaining about other teams wearing or not wearing masks is not appropriate. They don't have to let their kid play, period. End of statement.
Absolutely.
So just to clarify that. My second one is you made the comment, not to get political, but we talked about the economy. The economy, folks, is not political. If we don't get this economy in this state running, every single faculty member, student, and community member will be affected, and I think negatively. So we have to get the economy rolling, and we have to get it rolling quickly. Again, in my humble opinion. That may sound political, but I will tell you, come 12/31 is what you used as a date, I think, Tom, to make the last final decision on cuts or whatever, or from the governor's office. You know, if it's not going by that time, there's going to be some severe cuts, and we're going to have to make them. So if you want to call that political, have at it. I don't think it's political.
I just want to make a correction. Lynn Dollar in the audience pointed it out. I thought it was an MOA about the number 30, but you're saying it's just a gentleman's agreement, Lynn? Okay, it's just a gentleman's agreement that we wouldn't exceed 30 in fairness to the teachers, that we're just the virtual teachers only. And I will say, if it has to be 31 or 32, Teachers Union have been really good at understanding that there could be a situation. But again, Aaron brought up a really good point, that exactly what Christy said, for the continuity of instruction, let's do what we can for those kids that may be home for 10 or 14 days without putting them with a new teacher to just pull them back. But rest assured, if you're a parent, you're watching this, and you have a worry, let's say your kid, if you have a cell phone right now, you're probably seeing that there's other districts right now in Onondaga County that are reporting cases. So it's not going to be before long that people start to hear, well, what's going to happen when we do get a positive case at Central Square? Because we will. There's just really no way to avoid that. I can just go back to the fact that if a parent is worried and they're wondering about the instruction of their kids, it's going to be a daunting thing to get that phone call from the health department saying, can't tell you why, or who, but you're going to be quarantined for a certain amount of days. I want them to be able to reach out to us and know that we have their kids' best interests in their education and how we're moving forward. We've worked great with the CSTA regarding that. Again, what I just told you was not a Central Square thing. There have not been cases of a Central Square student. But what I'm getting text messages of people saying this district or that district, and you're going to see it on the news. I just want people to know we are prepared. We have an amazing plan. We've got supportive people, and we understand the stress level that parents are under, and we want to be able to do right by them when they unfortunately do get a call like that.
Thank you for that clarification, Lynn.
Anyone else? Okay. Making a motion for item I, adjournment, which we're going to skip over item H, obviously.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
And just to clarify, we're skipping over item H because it's discussion and action, items for discussion and action, and there are none. So, motion by McCarthy, second by Loyer. All those in favor? Okay, unanimous. So we're all set, just to clarify. Sorry, Dennis. Yours,
I got the first one.
What's this right here? No, because they use them. The high school uses this room a lot, whether it's distribution and whatnot. So I believe you just ended the meeting, correct? The meeting is now over. I want to thank all 12 of you for joining. Have a great night. Yeah.
It won't shut up. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.